let's get into the interesting stuff. Dame Lillard finally gets traded. It looked like it might be a near the deadline, trade deadline kind of thing, but
Hmm.
thankfully they resolved it before the offseason.
Before
Uh,
camps,
I
too.
know before camps. That's a good point. Good point. Just quickly going over the trade. Dame Lillard gets traded to the Bucks. Portland. This is a three-team trade with Phoenix Suns.
Hmm.
Portland gets back Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, uh, Tomani Camera. Which, by the way, side note, I feel like not a basketball fan. I have no idea. I've never heard this guy's name. Anyway, Milwaukee's 2029 first unprotected first rounder. And then swap rights in 28, 2030. The Suns receive Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson as part of the package. And I think the Bucks just get Lillard, if I'm correct.
Hmm.
Is that all right? But yeah, Rem, is this? I mean, there's just so many angles to this, but I guess we could just start with Dame not going to Miami.
Well, it's crazy that like we were talking about when this happened, that just the biggest storylines in the NBA, they always seem to cross paths, and they always kind of seem to be like the solutions to each other's situations. I mean, the obvious example was, one of the most recent ones, but this happened with, it didn't happen exactly, but like with Ben Simmons and James Harden, where you have these two teams that have these two, I don't want to say problems. The Dame thing was a real thing. Obviously, he like actually requested the trade from Portland, but this Giannis thing, I mean, like we've been saying, I don't know if it was a problem, but it was a thing. And this is what happens. The front office went out, got aggressive. They bring in Dame Lillard. So Sam, did this work for Giannis? Like, did him putting pressure on the Bucks organization actually like work? And the team went out and flipped some assets and got a guy who, the stats and the offensive numbers and all that stuff, they gave up a lot, but we know what Dame Lillard brings to the table. Did Giannis actually pull off what he wanted to do with all the quotes?
I think so. And, this is why everyone needs to listen to this podcast because, not to our own home, but Rem helped too. We were on this as soon as Giannis started those interviews. I don't know. I listen to podcasts. We both watch sports media. I did not see people pushing it as much as we
Nobody
were.
talked about that interview.
No one did. And it's
And
so
that was,
vital. That's
yeah.
so important to like the small market teams because you're going on New York Times and you're calling out the team. That's not something you just look over, ignore, especially for a place like Milwaukee where you have a player who, obviously have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but who can be right up there with probably, Oscar Robinson. We don't want to forget the greats, but probably up
Yeah.
there as one of the best players of all time for their franchise. And it's just, and he's coming out and saying that he doesn't know if he wants to stick around and things like that. And so, I mean, I think he definitely woke him up. It seemed like they thought they were kind of locked in. There was kind of almost mediocrity. They could mess around with some stuff. And he's like, hey, no, you can't just, bring in whoever you want, have an aging team and chillax. But now with this, it obviously way vaults their position up the contender ladder. I mean, it wasn't like they were going to be bums or scrubs this next year, but
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best duos in the league. I don't know if you got a ranking over there for best duos, but definitely up there. And it was just crazy because it just seemed like it wasn't being talked enough how big it was that the best player in the league, Jokic is probably above
Hmm.
him, but in terms of, two-way play, if you want to start a franchise tomorrow, are you picking, him or Jokic? It's
Yeah.
it's close. It's close, but in terms of the next couple of years, I think Jokic could be right up there. And now Dame gets to play with him. And now that team has, three all-time leading scorers from three different franchises, with Brooke Lopez with the Nets. So I thought that was also really interesting. They got, people still three great scorers. And around near the end of their prime, and then Giannis right in his prime. But I think, I don't know if who do you think won the trade? This is always the first question out the gate. Who won, who lost? And you look at the pieces, you go over it, and it definitely looks like, the Bucks got what they wanted. You only really lose Drew Holiday, a couple picks, and Grayson Allen. I mean, the unprotected first rounder is always iffy, but you're expecting to still have Giannis at that point. Hopefully. I mean, yeah, that might come back to bite you. But I mean, you're really only losing, to Drew Holiday rotation, or he was a starting guard, but not as, I don't know if we'd ever call him a superstar, definitely an all-star, great two-way play, but we'll talk a little bit about the defense later. And then Grayson Allen, bench guy. But outside of that, I don't know if the Bucks really lost that much. And I think it's really the Suns who kind of fell on the sword here, with taking back some pretty not as great packages for DeAndre Ayton.
So the reason that, like personally that I question, whether or not Giannis putting on this pressure worked. And, I'm not going to question Lillard at all. Like, Lillard's a great player. I love Lillard. He's going to be awesome on this team. Like, that is going to be an awesome duo. But, one, is he actually more valuable to a team than Drew Holiday? And, two, like, their identity as a team was really built around this two-way thing that they were doing with both Giannis and Drew, and Brook Lopez really benefits defensively from playing with both of those guys. But that was kind of like a two-way basketball team that really it's not the best offensive team in the league. It maybe is closer to the best defensive team in the league. I think it was fourth in adjusted defensive rating last year. But, swapping out Lillard for Holiday is, you could say a player upgrade, but it does kind of shift the identity of your team, not having that defensive star, kind of player in the backcourt, and not having and not even like a backcourt guy. He could be like a legitimate wing defender, guard bigger guys. Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, he was just on fire. It happens, but he's guarding Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's like a small forward type player. And for Lillard, like, it was like the trade part of this, and the hard part of this was, yes, he is a star player like these other stars that have requested trades in terms of, like, the culture and the impact and stuff and the fan bases. But like, in terms of what he's done on a basketball court, like Dame, remember, he has never won a conference championship game as the best player on a team. And Drew Holiday has proven that he can be the second guy on a title team. So I'm not saying Lillard can't be the second guy on a title team, but that is what he's going to have to be on this team, because Giannis is the best player. And now your identity is shifted away. I mean, Lillard's a great offensive player. And again, I'm not questioning it, but having, losing just such a key defensive piece in Holiday, is that going to matter at all?
It will. Of course it will. I mean, that's the, second, third best player. I mean, last year it was the second. I think the title year, it could be argued. I think Chris Middleton was the second best player. But losing, I mean, what Drew Holiday did last year when Giannis was out during the regular season too, to keep that team afloat. He went up another level. I mean, we've already mentioned, Chris Middleton. Is he that guy? You're going to start having troubles on scoring. And the thing is we seen, I mean, stars want to play with stars, and that's the best way to appease your star. You got to do what you got to do. Of course, the clip going around on social media is LeBron calling out, Giannis taking Lillard in the All-Star draft, which new importance to the All-Star draft. I wasn't wasting my time all this years watching a draft for
it's never a waste of time.
never,
What else?
So
What else are you gonna do for a couple hours on a Sunday? And
like,
in the middle of
come on.
February,
It's like
football's
it's like
over. Watch
it's
the
like a
All-Star game. It's
it's
a
like
good
a
time.
15 it's a 15-minute YouTube video. It's fun. But it was hilarious. But yeah, you when you look at the way the series ended last year and how it was that last second play where game four and everyone's like, oh my goodness, the Bucks are gonna lose. Who took the final shot? Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen
Hmm.
took that final shot. I mean, they were playing hot potato. There wasn't really anyone who wanted to seize the moment to really take control of it. And while you obviously still you're going to miss Drew Holiday's defense. I mean, Damian Lillard has shown he still can be a high level scorer when healthy. Now on defense, we know it is very suspect, but that's already the team has, trees in the paint with Giannis, with Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton when he's healthy. I think they can make up for it as well. And
Well, it seems to me that people are kind of talking about this, and you like
mhm,
the social media stuff gets over exaggerated for a reason, but
yeah,
people are talking about this kind of like this is not like a KD to the Warriors type thing.
no, it's not.
And Lillard is, yes, he's a star, but he's never been like that, elite level guy. His teams have been okay. So,
But he's been playing with like CJ McCollum, like,
he has, but in the hierarchy of you need a guy as your second best guy, I like what, the two-way thing that Holiday brings to the table. I think the point that you're making though is the right point. The thing that the reason I was like, why do they want to bring Dame in specifically? Because he is available. So that is probably a huge portion of it. You can actually go out and get, a quote unquote star player because he wants to be moved. But it has to be the closer thing, right? It has to
well,
be
there's
the end of the game. You need a big shot. Who is gonna take that big shot in the moment? And as much as we love Giannis, Lillard as a shot maker and as a clutch shot maker specifically is just one of the best in the league. And if we're talking about a last second shot, even on a team with Giannis, Lillard is probably taking that shot. He is the clutch guy. So, I think to me, that's kind of the big thing that I think stands out about why Lillard is, a big thing over Holiday. But, Lillard's impact is, been pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, you look also on the defensive side, and the best players in the league, I mean, they are bigger than Drew Holiday. They're not great matchups for Holiday. And that was part of the reason why Giannis was really mad about how the series ended last year and why, even despite the personal things going on, Coach Bud got fired, is because Drew Holiday stayed on Jimmy Butler throughout that series instead of switching on to Giannis. And Giannis kind of wants those matchups. And you start looking around the league at the kinds of players that you're going to be dealing with. You're going to be dealing with Jason Tatum. You're going to be dealing with Joel Embiid. Now he doesn't really even have Harden, so you don't have to really worry about guarding him. And then you're dealing with Tatum, Embiid, and then Jokic on the other side. I mean, you start getting further down on the West, then you get Curry, you get Fox, and that's where it can start getting iffy. But on the East side, it's generally the bigger players, Jimmy Butler as well. And that's going to be Giannis's assignment. And he wants those matchups. And so probably, in his head, again, playing a little bit of doctor here, but in his head, he's like, I got that. That's going to be my responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
which it should have been last year. And we still have Brook Lopez. We still have Chris Middleton. So we still have defensive people to help us. And of course, they're going to try to expose Dame and all that. But Dame is there's enough other defense to cover for Dame, and Dame, even if he was solid or good on defense, shouldn't even be guarding these guys anyway. I mean, it should be Giannis, no matter, even with Drew Holiday there. So I get the Bucks position of, okay, these are the guarding, that should be done by Giannis anyway. We can get rid of, they I think in their head it made sense to still trade Drew Holiday, even if he is still a good, high level defender, just because of, like you mentioned, those clutch moments, and because Giannis has always still needed a ball handler. Even no matter how good he's been in the biggest moments, we know he plays best with a good ball handler, and Drew Holiday has been sufficient. He hasn't been bad. but Dame Lillard is obviously another level. And it'll be interesting to see how he does with playmaking, working with the big guy. Yusuf Nurkic is always hurt. But he's still a top level guard. And, it's not KD going to the Warriors. He's not joining a 73 win team. They did get knocked out last year in the first round. But I do, obviously
but
think this makes
it's not like that shoe in too. It's not like that they're a shoe in to just, win the East as well.
Yeah, no. The Celtics are still there, even with Porzingis hurt. They still have, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And, the Heat aren't really going anywhere. It'll be interesting to see Tyler Hero take that next step. And yeah, you could kind of see him happy of not going to Portland to be a backup. And and then the 76ers, I don't really know. They're a big question mark just because of who knows what's going to happen with that situation with Harden. Is Joel Embiid going to stick around? But I think they are definitely the most set team in terms of knowing what they have. The Celtics, it's going to be a totally different team without Marcus Smart. I think that he was definitely the heart and soul of the team. Did he hurt them as much as he helped them? I think there's an argument to be made for that in terms of taking those big moment shots. But also he was the toughness of the team, of a team that didn't really have a lot of toughness, especially in the playoffs, and would kind of give up. So I think they're a new team. 76ers are going to be a new team. And, without Kyle Lowry, some of those guards in Miami, they're going to have a change too with, is Tyler Hero going to take that next step? So you look at those top teams, the Cavs, can they make another jump? The Knicks, I don't even know. So you look at them around the East, and there's a lot of teams that don't really know who they are. The West, they're pretty set. We know the hierarchy over there. But I do think, this puts them pretty firmly to be the favorites to win the East. Now, I don't think it's going to be a thrashing, but I do think they are the most set. They have the biggest identity and something that actually makes sense. So I'm really excited to see this team out on the court. But they're not the only team after this trade that I'm excited to see this next season.
538 has their player ratings, and last year they had in their Raptor War ratings, they had Lillard as the 8th best player in the league. They had Drew Holiday as the 11th best player in the league. And that's been kind of consistent throughout Holiday's career in Milwaukee as well. In, the season before the season he got there, Lillard was 5th in Raptor War and Holiday was 11th. And then the season after, Holiday was 9th. And Lillard dropped way down the list. So, in terms of impact, it's not like it's been super uncomparable. And the other thing with Dame too now is Milwaukee is going to be responsible for that Dame contract. And I think Dame could still be a good player for the majority of that, but he does have 4 years, $216 million left on it. So that's over $54 million a year. Like is Drew Holiday's up for an extension next year, which is probably another part of this expiring contract thing. But is he going to sign an extension for $50 million plus a year? Like I love Drew Holiday. Yeah, I love Drew Holiday. I don't know if the league is necessarily going to give him that.
No.
So
no, they're not. And it depends. I think people are pretty much set that the Trailblazers are probably flipping him. It's another. Well,
we can talk about Holiday on the Blazers in yeah.
But so that'll affect it depending on what team
Lillard,
he's on.
Like we're just saying now, Lillard, this is not a shoe-in for the title type move, and they're gonna have to pay him way more than they paid Holiday. And this is already not a deep team. And, Grayson Allen is probably a little too important for the Bucks, but he is important to that team because they're not super deep. They lose a rotation guy. You lose some future assets. So, it's close. It's close. I think Dame's going to be great. Like, I think this could be, probably top 2 guard big man combo in the league potentially. Yeah, is this better than Jokic and Murray?
One won a title and one hasn't yet. But the ceiling of the, Dame and Giannis, it's tough.
You're right. The ceiling,
that's close.
The ceiling is there, but the actual impact from Holiday has been very, it's been very comparable. The two-way thing is real. I think he goes underrated. And I think the Grayson Allen pieces, I think they're going to miss that. I think they're going to miss the one rotation
Grayson
guy.
Allen minutes.
I think they're just going to miss a body.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of guys, and a lot of guys that they have are older. I'm assuming there's going to be some injury stuff. We'll see. Well, we'll see the load management this year from, the Stars with like the new rules and stuff. But I still think, an older team might not have their players out there as much. And, that one piece of depth could be like pretty important for them. But so, I'm not saying Milwaukee lost this trade by any means. Like, I think this is, on a basketball level, it does make sense. It's a move that Lillard is the big name too, as well. But Holiday's impact is real for this team. They've won a title, and they were already, in my mind, the favorites to win the East with the group that they had. And like we're saying, I don't know if this trade necessarily puts you a lot closer. So I don't know. Like, it just like, did they give up too much to not get a lot closer? I don't think they lost, but they are sacrificing some pieces to not guarantee a title.
Yeah, and the thing is that, first of all, both of those players like each other, Giannis and Dame. And Giannis picked him first in the All-Star draft, and then Dame has mentioned that that's his pick to help him win a ring. And at the end of the day, the league is run by stars, and one of the stars said, "Hey, you guys need to get serious. You need to bring in someone in here." Which means, he looked around at the team and was like, this isn't it, which, shout out. He's a, like one of the best principles that I've really loved in sports is it's the players and the coaches who are around each other every single day in the facility. If anyone knows best about the skill level and where people are at, it's the people in the gyms and there. And we can watch as many games as we want, but we know. And Giannis looked around this team is like, Chris Middleton's on the decline. Jrue Holiday, at some point, this drop has got to start. I mean, he is a little bit older. He has a lot of miles, and he's not a superstar. He's still a high level player, like we mentioned, two-way. One of probably top 5 two-way guard in the league. I think it definitely. I don't know how many players you put up there with him. Yeah. I think you could put a probably best two-way guard in the league. But to Giannis, he wants a star, and you got to do what you got to do to keep players like Giannis around. You just got to, especially when you're a small market team like Milwaukee. It's just what you do. And is this the smartest basketball move? Smartest 2K move? Probably not. But you can't even mess around with Giannis possibly leaving. You can't joke around that. And it's just. It kind of sucks for the Bucks. It kind of pushed their hand probably more than they wanted to, but it's just the state of the league. You see all these players, asking for trades, and it's happening, sitting out, things like that. And for the Bucks, you can win a ring with Giannis. When he is healthy, that he can be the best player in the league, and it's just something you do. So. I do get the point of, does the upgrade really make sense? How much the gap between Jrue Holiday and Dame Lillard is, which is probably not that much, actually, when you look at the stats, when you look at how bad Dame Lillard's defense is, which is kind of going under the radar. And the Bucks kind of don't have a backup guard. That right now, the only other guards on their roster besides Chris Middleton, if he's put there, Malik Beasley, is AJ Green, Lindell Wingington, and Andre Jackson. Yeah, exactly. So Pat Connaughton.
I think there's some campaign rumors.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna have to bring in some veterans, but I saw Isaiah Thomas being floated out. I was like,
I saw that too. Yeah.
It's almost like it's almost like the Kaepernick thing. It's wild. Anyway,
Isaiah Thomas didn't write a letter. No.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole other thing. I don't know. Golly. Anyway, but he's
it was very touching.